Hello everyone, this is Elian, your detox coach. I really want to speak to you about blood sugar, blood pressure and cholesterol. All these three things boils down to a specific gland, the adrenal glands. Not only the adrenal glands, but it has something to do with the adrenal glands. So while we're going to focus on those topics, I'm actually going to use as context what we've done for the thyroid talk as well. We're going to use in context the glands, the chakras, our energy centers, just talking a little bit about the big picture, where the glands fit in, the kind of chemistry it provides to the body, the service it provides to the body, and then focusing a little bit on these specific three conditions and how it boils back to the adrenal glands and the chemistry that the adrenal glands either produce in balance or then not in balance, not enough of. And of course, we're going to get to why things are malfunctioning in our body, and then we're going to get to the solution and how to fix it. So, welcome to our talk. It was so happy to speak to the people that came to the Bodhi tree on Saturday to listen to the talk. It was a lovely conversational talk. There was many questions that guided the sequence of the discussion, and I'm glad I also have an opportunity to have this sit down where I go sequentially through things as I understand they build on top of each other and get from the one end to the other. Always refreshing to meet you guys when you arrive physically. It's lovely to actually just share the same space and time together. Really looking forward to our next few talks coming up as well. For now, we're going to focus on blood pressure, blood sugar, and cholesterol. So, big picture. Our glands and our energy centers. In the East, it's called the chakras, right? And in the West, might as well call it the glands. That's literally the understanding between the East and the West of our energy centers. So it seems like if we look at the physics of our body versus the chemistry of our body, the energy body has these main column of energy centers, the 7 energy centers in the center column of our being, which is called the chakras, the 7 chakras. And then we have our major endocrine glands, which is also 7, and also spread out in the main column of our body and the center column of our body. And we understand that the chakras would be then the most physical part of your spiritual body, the wiring of the spiritual body, and it connects with the most spiritual part of our physical body, which is the glands, and that's where it connects. So if we run through the big picture quickly, we start with our pituitary gland, which is a very small pea-sized little gland that's attached to the hypothalamus. So just for context sake as well, the glands governs organs or systems in the body via the chemistry it produces. So the glands really are our master computer of the body, the operating system of the body. So the pituitary gland is connected to the hypothalamus, which is your brain, which is the center of your nervous system, which determines a big part of your experience on this planet as the strength of your nervous system, the wiring of your nervous system, the endurance of it, the wellness of it really determines so much of your responses to the experience on this planet. And the pituitary gland has a lot to do with governing the hypothalamus, also governing the rest of the glands by producing hormones to instruct the rest of the glands to produce hormones. A good example is the thyroid stimulating hormone, TSH, that is produced by the pituitary gland so that the thyroid produces T3s and transform to T4s. So these are quite important messaging, you can imagine, that's happening. And you can imagine if the life force energy comes in an electromagnetic frequency form and it is connected to our glands, that translates it into biochemistry. When the glands are congested and malfunctioning, they cannot, even if they want to, produce the chemistry to truly translate what needs to be translated for your body to fully function and to be equipped to deal with the reality on this planet. So we really need to look at having our glands in a healthy space, a space of ease and homeostasis, so that when they receive this life force, it is not blocked and congested, and it can actually produce the chemistry, the biochemistry needed for the body to be fully instructed and to respond with full force, with the reality that we are experiencing on this planet. So the pituitary gland is connected to the crown chakra. Crown chakra, pituitary gland, connected to the hypothalamus, the brain, which is connected to us in our nervous system. The second one would be our third eye chakra. It's connected to our pineal gland. The pineal gland is just a little bit more behind in the head, but eyebrow height. And it is sort of governing the vision, which is third dimensional vision, our sight, as well as our dream space. It also produces melatonin, which is the hormone necessary for sleep cycles. So these are all things that some of the things that the pineal gland is doing as well. Next one would be our thyroid. We've got a butterfly-shaped thyroid over here, left and a right lobe, and on top of it there's parathyroid glands. No one ever mentions the parathyroid glands, and they are playing extremely important roles in the absorption and utilization of calcium specifically. It's sort of the fountain of youth, the parathyroid glands. If they produce enough of the parathyroid hormone, then your body can actually utilize calcium and rebuild itself proper. Bones, skin, connective tissue, and all of that. And it's connected to our throat chakra, of course. The next one is our heart chakra, and this is where our thymus gland is. Little is known of the thymus gland. What is known is that it helps mature fighter cells. So it is like the gland governing the immune response of the body, quite important. And then we've got our solar plexus. Solar plexus is digestion of life, and it's connected to the pancreas, which is of course governing a big part of the digestive process. We've got our sacral chakra, which is connected to our ovaries and testes, and it runs the reproductive cycle, also the sexuality of our personality, So that is a lot of governing that happens over there with the balancing of the hormones in that region. And then we've got our root chakra that is connected to our adrenals, which is right on top of the kidneys, so it governs the kidneys. I failed to mention that the thyroid also governs the skin. So the elimination organs, your biggest elimination organs being your skin and your kidneys. You also have your lung and your bowels, of course. But the skin and the kidneys are the ones that really get rid of the lymphatic fluid. And the main job of the lymphatic fluid is to remove the waste of 75 to 100 trillion cells. Every time a cell consumes energy, it will produce waste, and this waste can only be removed by the lymphatic fluid, and it will only drain successfully via the kidneys and the skin. Some of it, about 20%, might drain by the bowel as well. And then if we are in a space where our lungs is quite congested with mucus, it will expel via coughing. But that would be a temporary stage where you cough and expel mucus. It will stop at some stage, and then the mucus will continue to leave your body via your kidneys and your skin if your elimination process is functioning well, which is what we're going to spend more time on in the solution part of things. So now you saw how the glands fit in relation to our energy centers and governing the rest of the body. Let's look at the chemistry that these glands produce. So there's 4 main categories of chemistry that are produced by the glands. Hormones is what we all know that endocrine glands produce. Endocrine glands meaning it's glands that produce chemistry for the rest of the body, not for their own functioning. So for instance, you get liver that produce chemistry, but it produces chemistry for liver function, and the stomach produce chemistry for digestion, which is stomach function. But the endocrine glands, which is all these glands that I've mentioned now, actually produce chemistry for the rest of the body. So they produce it directly into the bloodstream, and it goes to instruct the rest of the body to bring change where is necessary. So hormones, well-known ones is oxytocin, serotonin, melatonin. There's plenty of others. Parathyroid hormone, these are all hormones. They are either helping with metabolizing of minerals or nutrients or certain elements, or they're bringing change. They're bringing breakdown or a change that needs to happen in the chemistry of the body. When not in balance, you're going to see conditions like your bipolar, your schizophrenia, even your ADHD. All of this is heavily reliant on balanced hormones and balanced enzyme actions and balanced neurotransmitters and efficient neurotransmitters, which is bringing us to the next chemistry produced mostly by the adrenals, but other glands also produce neurotransmitters. Ones that is well known as adrenaline, noradrenaline, dopamine, these kind of things. Neurotransmitters are for the nervous system what this blood is for the circulatory system. The nervous system can't really work fully without neurotransmitters, and it needs enough of it as well. So if you have low adrenal function, which translates into low blood pressure, you actually are deficient of neurotransmitters and hormones, enzymes and steroids, which is the other two chemicals we're coming to right now. And as you build this deficiency in the body, more and more cascading effects happen because of these deficiencies. So it's quite a big deal if you are deficient in this chemistry. If you have low functioning adrenals, which translate as low blood pressure, it's quite a big deal. It's not been made a big deal out there. Usually when you have low blood pressure, people just go like, oh, well, you're lucky it's not high kind of thing. But low blood pressure is, in 50 to 80% of the cases, the beginning of high blood pressure later in life. It's because of all these deficiencies building up. We're coming back to that in a little bit. So that was hormones and neurotransmitters. Hormones produced by most glands, neurotransmitters mostly produced by the adrenal glands. Then we've got enzymes. Enzymes are extremely important. It's easier to explain the working of enzymes with an example. Enzymes are also produced by other organs of the body. There's talk that there's some enzymes produced by the intestines, small intestines, and other organs as well. Even the skin, the spit produce enzyme for digestive actions. The pancreas, the exocrine part of the pancreas, produce enzymes for digestion, etc. So there's quite a bit of enzyme production in the body. The adrenals produce enzymes for the utilization of up to 52 minerals known to man. So this includes your iron, your copper, your selenium, magnesium, manganese, name it. 52 minerals utilization is determined by the enzymes produced by the adrenal glands. So if I am a liver cell over here, I can't pick up and go to the kitchen when I'm hungry. I have to wait for the host to eat. I'm the host of my body, and I'm basically a food processor. There's 4 steps in my food processing process where I will ingest food with the main purpose of delivering nutrients and energy to my body. It would be broken down, digestive process, which is the first of the 4 processes. After successful breaking down, it needs to be absorbed via the bowel wall and the intestinal wall. The villi is like fingers in the inside of the small intestine. It needs to be absorbed by this villi to actually be brought into the system to be delivered. There's another level of absorption that we need to consider as well, and this is when we look at how constipated or congested we are interstitially in between the cells, which brings us back to that lymphatic fluid. Remember I mentioned it earlier? Lymphatic fluid makes up 80% of the fluids in your body, 20% made up by blood, a little bit of trace elements of other fluids in our body like water too. But 80% of the fluids in our body exist of lymphatic fluid. So if this lymphatic fluid is congested and it's acidic and it's thick, this is what surrounds all your cells. So even if you have successful digestion and absorption, you might not have nutrients reach the cells because it's so congested in between the cells that there can't be any absorption happening interstitially in between the cells. Just something to remember as well. The third step in the processing process is your utilization, and this is where the adrenals and other glands play such an important role as producing enough of these enzymes for the body to actually make use of the food and the nutrients that was broken down to be made use of. So the example back to the liver cell, if I scan myself and I decide I need copper, I need iron, and I need calcium to restore myself, to regenerate. So the moment I've made that decision, I'm going to start looking around for the enzyme that the adrenals produce for me to make use of copper. So I'm going to find this enzyme, I'm going to pull it to me like an antenna. I'm going to find the enzyme produced by the adrenals for me to utilize iron, and I'm going to pull that enzyme to me as well. And I'm looking around for the parathyroid hormone because I want to make use of calcium, but I can't find parathyroid hormones. I can't seem to find one. So in the meantime, the host eats, digestion, absorption happens, it comes into my body via the blood, and the next thing is the iron is coming around and magnetized to the enzyme to utilize iron, and it's magnetized, the copper is magnetized to the enzyme to utilize copper. These enzymes also play a role in pulling it through the cell membrane, and I'm happy I've received those two elements that I needed. I still can't find parathyroid hormone, so there's all this calcium swimming past me that's coming from the beautiful food that my host has eaten, but I can't actually use the calcium. So the doctor is going to tell you that you have great calcium in your blood, but the utilization of the calcium is actually not taking place. And this is a big deal. So the glands plays a huge role in production of these kind of enzymes. These enzymes, especially coming from the adrenal side, helps with carbohydrate metabolism. It helps with fighting inflammation, which also brings us to the fourth category, which is steroids. Steroids mostly produced by the adrenals. People actually don't know which is more important, the pea-sized pituitary gland, which is like our master computer attached to the hypothalamus, or the two adrenals on top of the kidneys, because they just have so many functions that can go wrong so badly if not fully functioning, that it's hard to decide which of those are the most important glands. So steroids, so this is quite an interesting one. When we are acidic interstitially, when our body has inflammation somewhere or everywhere, we are systemically have acidosis because of our lifestyle and the sustenance that we eat. Our body uses steroids to combat that. Steroids is a cholesterol-based lipid. It's a cholesterol-based substance, but different than plain cholesterol. It is actually there's a chemistry to it. It responds to the inflammation in such a way that it transmutes the inflammation and change the volume of it, and change the inflammation to something else. There's a chemical response between steroids and inflammation. When there's not enough steroids in your body, when your adrenals are really low functioning and it simply do not produce enough steroids for the body, again, you are building up a deficit. Now, the acidosis is not going away and it needs to be handled by the body. So there's 4 ways that the body would actually then try to combat this acidosis if it doesn't have enough steroids. One way is by producing more cholesterol. So now let's almost speak about cholesterol. Our liver produces cholesterol, and again, it's a lipid-based substance, so it is alkaline, so it really helps a lot to combat acidity. So if there's not enough steroids around, your body will start overproducing cholesterol to cover all the membranes, the insides, the organs, just to buffer it from the acids that is in the lymphatic fluid. So it really is a protection. Yes, there is something like good cholesterol. It is a protection for an acidic environment. But the very protection becomes a problem later on in life, because more and more cholesterol is packed and more cholesterol is packed to fight this acidic interstitial environment. And this literally clamps down the cavities of the body, which then increase the pressure inside the body. So that's why a low blood pressure earlier on in life actually translate into a high blood pressure later in life, because you have this, we call it cholesterol plaqing, that takes place throughout the body, that's trying to buffer the acids in the body. Another way the body will actually fight this interstitial acidosis is by leaching calcium from your matrix. So it will leach calcium from your bones, connective tissue, from your skin, from the very cell membranes, to buffer this acids. Again, it now packs this calcium around the body and around these acids to buffer the tissue from the acids. And this has also the plaqing effect, and it leaches calcium from your body. So if you are sitting with a weaker parathyroid hormone that is already not producing enough parathyroid hormone for your body to utilize calcium, and your body is leaching calcium, this is quite a crisis. This is where you look at your osteoporosis even at younger ages, your heavy cases of arthritis, etc. Also, the stones that forms in your body has to do with calcium that's in your body that is actually not utilized. So it's in your blood, it's floating around in your system, but it's not utilized by the body itself, by the cells itself. So it mixes with phosphorus and it creates bone growths and stones in the body. Another way the body will combat these acids is with water retention. So this is now retaining water and using the water as a buffer to protect the tissue from the acids. And this will of course have swelling as a result, and also inhibits the cavities of the body and push the pressure up in the body over time. So the beautiful music in the background is Estas Ton. Those who doesn't know me is incredible with the guitar. Those are the chemistry produced by the glands in general. So I want to now read from the notes. I've made you guys notes that will be attached on the email that comes hand in hand with the video. And I'm going to read through the list of conditions you can expect when you have weak adrenals. Weak adrenal glands linked to the nervous system, inflammation, carbohydrate utilization, healing and repair of tissues. Weakness or failure of these glands will be seen as itises, all inflammatory conditions, anything ending with an itis, arthritis, bronchitis, name it. Anything that ends with an itis, all inflammatory conditions, is because of weak adrenals. Fibrocystic conditions, fibromyalgia, scleroderma and sciatica, ovarian cysts, excessive bleeding, endometriosis and atypical cell formation, prostatitis, prostate cancer, all female cancers, MS and Parkinson's disease, tremors, tinnitus, ringing in the ear, shortness of breath, cholesterol plaqing, dehydration, anxieties, excessive shyness, emotional sensitivities and other related conditions, sleep disorders, memory problems, early puberty, early initial menstruation and irregular menstruation, conception problems, sexual problems including lack or excessive sex drive, impotence, erection problems, frigidity in women, and fertility problems, low energy, chronic fatigue, low endurance. These are all things you can expect when you have weak adrenals. Let's speak a little bit about the blood pressure. So the top reading, the systolic reading of your blood pressure, is the functioning of your adrenals. The bottom reading, the diastolic reading, is the functioning of your kidneys. So let's start with the kidneys first. In mainstream medicine, they want you to have a healthy blood pressure of 120 on 80. We don't agree with that. The 80, the reading of the kidneys, is an inflated kidney reading. We want to see between 60 and 70 for a kidney reading. That's where a healthy kidney is. Anything above 70, above 65 to 70 is congested kidney that will be breaking down because of it being congested with the lymphatic fluid that's thick of acidic waste products that is not leaving the body successfully, and this especially start inhibiting the cells of the adrenals to function properly, and eventually burn the cells of the kidneys and the adrenals, and they will become weaker and weaker over time. So high blood pressures would be when this bottom reading is climbing higher and higher and higher, and this pushed the top reading up as well. So if you're sitting on 120 on 80, you think you are on a healthy blood pressure, but technically you want to see a 60 at the bottom, and whatever happens at the bottom will have an effect on the top reading. Ideally, we want to see 120 on the top reading, but we want to see a 120 on 60 on a top reading. So if you're sitting on a 120 and 80, when you go on a plant-based diet, this 80 is going to decongest down to 60. And this will allow the top reading of 120 to go down with 20 points as well. So technically you are sitting with a top reading then of 100, which is extremely low for the adrenal function. It really starts affecting the production of your neurotransmitters, steroids, enzymes, hormones. It builds up deficits. Your blood pressure is in this case very low. Your energy levels will be very low. You will rely heavily on stimulants to stimulate the adrenals to produce more of the neurotransmitters you need, but anything run in a stimulated way will eventually break down even faster. So again, high blood pressure is determined by the kidneys, the bottom reading. The moment this bottom reading is pushing up into the 90s and the 100s, you know that your kidneys are under extreme stress. It is congested to a high level, and you need to actually step in and relieve your kidneys from this. So this is where high blood pressures come from. Most high blood pressures. Low blood pressures are when your kidney is usually at still 70 or 80, although it is congested, and the top reading then is actually then an inflated reading as well. We want it to be on 120 when it's a healthy reading, but if you look at what it would be in a deflated state, it usually is around in the 90s and the 100s for most of us, and this is extremely low. This is really forcing people to reach out to stimulants like coffee and meat and sugars and starch to actually stimulate the adrenals to produce more chemistry so that we just feel better, But we know if we drive a car in red, it's going to break down, and this is exactly what's going to happen if we keep on stimulating the adrenals to produce more of the dopamine and the other neurotransmitters we need. And this will eventually have the adrenals completely break down, and that's when the breakdown of the body sets in. So the moment you go on a fruit-only diet, which is now part of the solution, the blood pressure decreases immediately. The kidneys start decongesting, goes down to a reading of 60 to 70. This will allow the top reading, the adrenals, also to show its genetic level, its true level, its non-stimulated level, which is usually quite low. And then from that point where it's not congested or stimulated anymore, this is where the healing can start setting in. Now, as you continue in your regenerative solution of eating fruits only, it brings the nutrients and the restoration to these cells of these organs and slowly build back the dynamic energy of these organs. Dynamic energy is when every cell is fully charged with full energy. And this is where you want to be. When you're at this place where you're at a blood pressure reading of 120/60, you know that this is now your decongested kidneys. They are filtering successfully. Your lymph fluid is actually leaving via the kidneys successfully. Your adrenals have been built back up to the dynamic position of a 120 on a 60. This is the perfect blood pressure. This is the perfect adrenal and kidney functioning out there. When it's much higher, it's because of that kidneys that is way inflated. And when it's that inflated, it is surrounded by acidic lymph, which is most of the time quite dehydrated. So it's becoming a sticky, gluey mass that is surrounding the kidneys. And if you don't fix it, it is progressing in its way down. And that sticky fluid becomes a dry snot that is surrounding the cells, and eventually that it completely disappear, and it's just absolutely drought inside the body in between the cells. And this is where the organs and the glands start giving in, and the last thing that you want. So we've touched now on cholesterol, high blood pressure, and low blood pressure. Let's quickly look at the reason why anything will malfunction. It boils down to the lymphatic fluid that I've mentioned now a couple of times. So let's talk about it a little bit. There's a few ways that you can build up an acidic inner environment. One of the ways is by eating food that produce acid ash. In the Western diet and most carnivore diets, most vegan diets, most diets out there are about 80 to 90% acid ash forming food. So by eating all these acid ash forming food, every time after digestion, there's actually an acid ash that's added back into the body, into the lymphatic fluid, which is the fluid or the system that deals with this. If this lymphatic fluid is not successfully draining via the kidneys and the skin and the bowel, it is stuck in the body, and it keeps on receiving every meal. It receives more of this acid ash, and it receives more of this acid ash. This is building up an acidic inner environment. These acid ash would be made of acidic chemistry like nitrogen and hydrogen and stuff like this that builds up in the body and is kept by the lymphatic fluid. Sometimes your body will build tumors, which is like garbage holes, to deal with it. Other times it will simply pack it interstitially into the organs and the tissue of the body. Another way is when you eat food that needs an acidic digestive process, your body is actually producing acids like hydrochloric acid to digest the food. Again, if the acids are not leaving your body via the lymph, via the kidneys, it stays in the body. It doesn't just evaporate. So this acids that your body is actually producing to digest complex food is another way that you add acid to your interstitial environment. And then a third way is you have between 75 and 100 trillion cells. They all eat and they all poop. And their poop is acidic. The waste of cells has a pH of 3 or lower, so it is quite acidic. And again, if the lymph is not successfully leaving the body via the kidneys, the skin, or the bowel, it is packed into this lymph and is making this lymph becoming congested and more congested and more congested. It can become so congested that it's actually stagnant, that it's standing still. It becomes so sticky and dehydrated that it clings to each other. Everything is stuck to each other, which is why when you pick up your hand like this, everything, it could hurt, like you're gonna have stiffness. This is all acids. This is all your tissue being like stuck to each other via this lymphatic fluid that's becoming sticky. Endometriosis is a classic case of this, where everything in the bowel area, in the womb area, is literally welded together with this acidic interstitial fluid that is actually in the body, and sticking the cells together in a way. So every time you have a menses, it tears so much of your tissue that it's like a really, really heavy bleeding, and it hurts extremely so much, So this can all be fixed with alkalizing your body. Anything that breaks down in the body has to do with this lymphatic fluid. So how do you heal anything in the body? You focus on alkalizing this lymphatic fluid and getting it to the point where it actually drains successfully via the kidneys, the skin, and the bowel. How do you do that? You need to stick to foods are the best. You need to stick to foods that is alkalizing, that produce an acid ash. You need to stick to foods that needs an alkaline digestive process instead of acidic digestive process. And you need to make sure that you've got an exit point for your lymphatic fluid. You need to make sure that your kidneys are filtering, your skin is draining gases successfully, and your bowel is working properly. The fastest way to do that is eating fruits. The first time I was introduced to the notion of eating fruits was 11 years before I tried it, and I laughed it off. I was like, this is absolutely ridiculous. We need our protein, we need our fats, and all the minerals. No, I'm not taking it. And I walked away from it. And after 11 years later, after I've been really studying how to get healthy in a natural way, really trying to help my little boy to become healthy, I came across Dr. Robert Morse, who ticked all my boxes. I was so relieved to come across him online. I was just so happy to listen to his understanding of the human body, the art of healing, the art of detoxification. And then he tells me I need to eat fruit. I cried. I was so angry at him because it just went against everything I learned. And I decided to do it to prove him wrong. I went for my first 4-month detox to prove him wrong. And boy, was I proven wrong. I eliminated so much mucus in that first 4 months immersion that I did. A couple of cups a day of mucus came out of my lungs and all cavities really. my body healed so much, my energy levels increased to the point that you can't even compare it to what I was before. I could see in my eyes, if you know how to read the iris, you can see the weakened cells in the iris, and you can see the condition of the lymph in your iris. It's like the clouds on top of your planet. It's either white first level, which is when it is still clear and it's not sticking together, and it could still become quite congested in that white stage, but at least it hasn't progressed to the second stage, which is yellow in the eyes. I used to have green eyes, like shocking green eyes, because I had a blue planet, blue iris with the yellow clouds, the yellow mucus, lymphatic fluid on top, which rendered me with a green eye. There is no such thing than a green eye. There's only blue eyes and brown eyes, and then there's lymphatic fluid that's either white, yellow, brown, or black. And you also get your chemical deposits, which is brown, and sulfur, which is orange. So these are the colors that you will find in the eye. And as you start to read the eye, you can actually see how your body is decongesting, or how your body is becoming inflamed when you start reintroducing inflammatory food again, especially, on a daily basis. So what is the solution? The solution is to go on a fruit detox as long as you can, and have the attitude of feasting on fruits. How often does people give you the green card to live on fruits only? It is actually such a treat, especially if you are able to get to fruits, to be able to afford it. It is not the cheapest of diets. I would say a mainstream trolley, including your cheeses and your meats, pretty much compared to a full trolley of fruits. So it's a big privilege to have access to fruits financially and physically. If you have access to organic fruits, you are absolutely the luckiest person alive. We simply have to start planting our fruit trees and looking after our fruit trees in an organic way if we want to have access to organic fruits, which is very tough to get. So when you do go on a fruit detox, you actually allow your body to rest. You will not ingest anything that needs an acidic digestive process, and just the energy that you save there is enough energy to already be now taken up in the regenerative process. So now that energy you lost on acidic digestive processes is now used to regenerate your body. Just that is already healing happening to the body. And then as the kidneys actually start filtering, you reach a new level of healing as the lymphatic fluid is now successfully leaving the body. How do you know if your kidneys are filtering? You urinate in a glass jar first thing in the morning and let it stand for about half an hour just to settle. Then you pick it up in front of a source of light, and you want to see your lymph in your urine. If it's like clear apple juice, there's no lymph in there. Your kidneys are actually not filtering your lymph. You want to see either flukes drifting around, or a murkiness, a cloudiness hanging in the center of the jar, or sometimes there's like sand grains lying at the bottom. Some kind of lymph you need to see in the urine. Then you know your kidneys are filtering. I've only met 2 of the hundreds of people I've helped with detoxing. I've met 2 people whose kidneys was filtering when I met them. And it usually takes a few weeks. It can take up to a few months. Some people have to work on it for about a year before their kidneys start filtering. And how do you work on it? You eat fruits. You stick to fruits, only fruits, and just fruits, and all fruits. And you eat and you feast on it, Sorry. And the more you eat it, there's also this astringent factor to fruits that vegetables doesn't have. When you eat lemons and it pulls on the membrane of your mouth, that's the astringency of the lemon. And most fruits have levels of astringency that pulls on your tissue, and actually also have an effect then of relieving the cells of the mucus surrounding them, and a pull action on getting that lymphatic fluid to flow. Big difference between vegetables and fruits is vegetables has a glucose as a simple sugar, which needs the insulin and that whole process to be instigated. Fruits have fructose. So even people with blood sugar problems can easily move to fruits without any insulin situation. So let's speak a little bit about blood sugars. So they call it diabetics. I really don't like using the disease words that men gave certain conditions in our body, but everyone do know what I speak of when I speak of diabetic 1 and 2. So I am going to use it a little bit. Diabetic 1 is when your pancreas is actually in a weak state, especially the islets of Langerhans, that is the part of the pancreas that produce the cells that produce the insulin, the cells that produce the insulin. And you need insulin to deal with glucose in the body. It's the carrier to bring the glucose into the cell, and without insulin, then the glucose would stay in the blood and bring havoc, like people with high blood sugar would know happens. So this has nothing to do with the adrenals. This has no direct link with the adrenals. Diabetic 1 has no direct link with the adrenals. The direct link is the islets of Langerhans that is not functioning. It might be weak cells that has been genetically received or became weak with the interstitial acids that are surrounding it. There is an element, indirect elements that do play roles though. The adrenals does play a role in the diabetic 1 because it produces the neurotransmitters, and it is the neurotransmitters in the islets of Langerhans that is instructing them what to do. It's bringing the message to them. It's the wiring that brings the message to them on how to function. So there might be actually people whose islets of Langerhans, the actual cells is not hurt, it's not deteriorated, but the nervous system that runs them is not strong enough, and they won't function for that reason, and that is linked to the adrenals. Other things that is connected to diabetics specifically is the thyroid and parathyroid gland. The parathyroid gland, because it produces the parathyroid hormone to utilize calcium. So if the islets of Langerhans are weak, they need calcium to rebuild themselves. And if there's not enough parathyroid hormone, they actually can't utilize calcium to rebuild themselves. And this is also a reason why they would deteriorate and be weak. There is a connection between the transverse colon and the pituitary gland. And the pituitary gland also has to do with diabetes insipidus, which is when your body is actually producing too much urine. You're excreting too much of your minerals via your urine, which is another kind of diabetics that is connected to the pituitary gland and hypothalamus. And then the GI tract itself, the same way everything in the body reflects in the hands, the bottom of the feet, the eye, it also is also connected to the GI tract. So if you have pockets of toxicity in your GI tract, it would actually influence that part of the body that's connected to that part of the GI tract. We know there's a connection between the transverse colon and the pituitary gland, so there is a space in the GI tract that is directly connected to the pancreas, the islets of Langerhans. And if that part of the colon or the GI tract has a toxic pocket, that toxicity would be feeding back to those islets of Langerhans and actually render them not functioning well. So that's diabetes 1. It has to do with the islets of Langerhans and the pancreas. Diabetes 2 has to do with the adrenals. That is when your adrenals are so low, it's not producing enough of the steroids and enzymes that's needed for the metabolization of carbohydrates, which includes your simple and complex sugars. Complex sugars will always be broken down to simple sugars. So all your complex sugars usually are broken down to glucose with a little bit of fructose in it, which is the overproduction then of glucose, which is also then a problem for many people that has weakened pancreas and islets of Langerhans, which is where that whole glucose situation comes in. But there's also the enzymes and the steroids produced by the adrenals to metabolize simple sugars. So if you are in a state of adrenal diabetes 2, when you eat a fruit smoothie that is very condensed, there's like 5 fruits in there, and you don't mix it well with the enzymes in your mouth, you might have that experience where you have just enough simple sugar for your body to deal with right now, and it's going to give you a bit of that, headiness that you get when you have high blood sugar. But it's very short-lived usually. It really, the fructose doesn't need carriers to go into the cell membranes. So it's just a question of time for the fructose to reach a cell, and then it diffuses into the cell. It goes from one air pressure to a lower air pressure. It literally falls into the cells. So it's just a question of a little bit of time before it's actually solved. The situation is solved. And that's now the proof that diabetes 2 is directly connected to the adrenal functions. Diabetes 1 is indirectly connected to the adrenals because of the production of neurotransmitters. Cholesterol plaquing is directly connected to the adrenals because it's the deficient steroids that is like the body is overproducing cholesterol to make up for the deficiency in steroids. And then your blood pressure is directly related to the adrenals and indirectly then to the kidneys. So that is how those things are all connected to our adrenals. So again, how do we fix these adrenals? We simply cut out inflammatory food, complex food that instigates an acidic digestive process, which is all your meats, all your dairies, all your complex sugars, all your dormant kind of food that you have to cook to eat it, like your dormant beans, legumes, pulses, chickpeas, your grains, all your grains, doesn't matter if it's got gluten or not, gluten specifically as well, but even your barleys, all of that you can't eat raw, you have to cook it to eat it. Potatoes, you have to cook it to eat it. Rice, all these things are complex structured food. And for complex structured food, your body needs to instigate an acidic digestive process. And this is then the stomach producing acids, and the pancreas and the liver has to produce bile and bicarb to actually bring this stomach chyme down to a pH of 7 before it hits the duodenum, which is the beginning of the small intestine, because otherwise you create your ulcers and that, because the lower pH of 7 will actually burn the small intestines, and that's how you create your stomach ulcers and that kind of situations. So it's extremely important to then focus on excluding complex structured food from your diet so that you do not instigate the acidic digestive process. And by including your fruits instead of your veggies, you bring in high levels of hydration, high levels of astringency, top volume of nutrients. It is the highest loaded frequency food is fruits. You can investigate it with culinary photography. You can actually take pictures of the energy field around anything, around any object, and the energy field of fruits are much bigger than the energy levels of veggies, the energy levels of cooked food. There's no energy level in cooked meat. There's no aura. There's no electromagnetic field around cooked meat. It's actually energetically completely dead. So you want to eat as an electromagnetic frequency loaded body. You want to eat food that brings an electromagnetic frequency, high electromagnetic frequency into your body. And these definitely is your fruits. So sticking to a fruit diet would then save yourself on the digestive process, the acidic digestive process. It brings in the levels of astringency. It brings in high levels of nutrients, high levels of hydration. You'll see you'll drink much less water if you eat fruit only as well. And this brings around a regeneration to your body cells. And as your body cells regenerate and as the alkaline fluid alkalizes and becomes thinner and thinner, eventually you'll get to the point where the kidneys now are successfully filtering the lymphatic fluid. You'll see up to 2 tablespoons of lymphatic fluid in your urine every morning, knowing now, okay, now your body is actually getting rid of all lymphatic fluids that was stuck for years. And as that leaves your body, it frees up the cells that was surrounded by this fluid. It actually removes the acids from the cells. The cells are not burnt anymore. It is actually in the position to receive nutrients that's coming its way. As the adrenals and the other glands heal, they produce more and more levels of the chemistry they need to produce. There'll be enough steroids to deal with inflammation. There'll be enough neurotransmitters to wire the nervous system and render it strong again. there will be enough hormones to bring in all the other chemistry in the body. All the instructions of the other organs and systems would be on point. You know, you'll have enough enzymes being produced, so you won't be deficient. Your deficiency in all your deficiencies will disappear, and you will actually have a strong and fit body again. There's no such thing as aging. It is really just weakening. So we can reverse age by going on fruit diets of 4 to 6 months for a few years in a row. Really get ourselves reset to the place where we are hundreds again. There are many people out there that lives on fruits only. It's not really a diet, it is a lifestyle. We are primates. In the end of the day, we are built on the form of primates. The anatomy of primates are exactly the same as our anatomy, and by choice they will live on 90% fruit, a little bit of young greens, which is also welcome in a diet. You can bring in your sprouts and your microgreens. This is where your B complexes will be found, which is where the meat receives its B complex, which is why some people receive their B complexes when eating meat. But technically our body is supposed to build protein, the same way the cow ate plants to build its meat, its protein. That way our body is supposed to use the building blocks, amino acids, fatty acids, minerals and nutrients to build the protein, to build the tissue, and to render us as a healthy vehicle of our spirit while we're on this planet. So I hope you enjoyed all of that. I do want to take some time and just mention the services and the products I have to support the healing of these conditions, specifically for this video's sake, but in general, really the regeneration of cells, which means the healing of the whole body. So I facilitate online body detoxes. Every month I've got a 28-day body detox that runs. In this 28 days, it's like a compact introduction to everything I believe is necessary for you to know, to set yourself up for success, to actually be able to continue with this journey of detoxification, this journey of cellular regeneration and of holistic healing of the body on your own. To be equipped to do it, you'll know how to test your urine to see if your lymph is flowing. You learn how to test the functioning of your thyroid. You learn how to analyze your blood pressure better. You learn how to analyze your iris so that you can actually keep track of the changes that happens there. There's a few other things. There's meal plans included to help you bridge from a Western diet to a plant-based diet, from a plant-based diet to a fruit diet. You know, it takes you on a little bit of a journey. I also do 6-month detoxes from solstice to solstice, winter solstice to summer solstice. I've done an equinox to equinox one before as well, which also works wonderfully. I do follow-up detoxes. So after you've done the 28-day detox, you can go deeper with me on a lymphatic drainage, heavy metal and chemical deposit removal detox, and a brain, nerve and circulation focused detox. So those are the ones we step on from the 28-day detox. We step into deeper levels of healing. And the 6-month detox, which is starting now soon, the 22nd of June, and we have our solstice to solstice one starting. The first 4 months we work through the 4 processes. So we start with the elimination process, then we look at the utilization process, that is all to do with the enzymes. We look at the absorption, which is the intestines, and we look at digestive process, which is the actual breakdown process of food. And then we step into the lymphatic drainage detox, and then into the brain, nerve and circulation focused detox, and that then in the 6-month period. So I have designed a few products. I always tell people these products will not heal you. It will help, it will assist with whatever condition, but what will heal you is when you go on a fruit diet. That is where the healing takes place. I've designed these formulas to support that healing process. So the kidney formula, you can't really see the kidney formula has been designed to really support the kidney cells to perform better and to heal faster, so that your drainage can happen. This is number 1 that I usually suggest. The gland support is quite the important one. It sort of replaces all the stimulants you were used to, and it doesn't stimulate the adrenals or the glands, though it supports them to function better. So this is a good way to actually bridge that period where you step away from stimulating energy, but your dynamic energy is not there yet. So this is where this product will come in. With that product, it's the adrenal and thyroid support. This is specifically for the adrenals and the thyroids. A very strong energy product, you know, so people that sits with chronic fatigue and brain fog, those kind of things, this is one of the products highly suggested for them to use. The bowel formula is probably my best treatment out there. Anyone that's got any form of bowel disease can use this. Doesn't matter if it's diarrhea or constipation. This is not a laxative, it's not a stimulant. It is actually a very soothing anti-inflammatory formula that you use half a teaspoon of in the mornings. You can increase it to half a teaspoon at night later then as well, and it really just helps people to sort out their problems, especially people that has been reliant on magnesium to have a bowel movement, or people that's reliant on aloe to have a bowel movement. This kind of formula really helps them to just restore their bowel functioning again. Then I've got 2 lymphatic formulas. We definitely start using these formulas when our kidneys are filtering well. The healing tea and the lung cleansing tea, both of these really has a beautiful effect on the lymphatic fluid, and it can be used, I would say, separately in small measures when your kidneys are not filtering yet, but when the kidneys are filtering, you want to bring them in some 2 cups a day of each. Our brain and nerve and circulation has been designed to help with the circulation in our head space and the lymphatic drainage of our head space, especially for those people whose tonsils was removed, but also those who still have their tonsils. You can see the congestion of your head space in the top part between 11 and 1 in your iris, and most of us are really sitting with quite high levels of congestion in that areas. I've got some other products as well, like the kidney and adrenal power, which I designed for people that's got very low kidney function of 60 and lower, 50, 40. These are people that sits with extremely low functioning kidneys, and this is quite a hard place to fight your way back from, because you're going to sit with extreme chronic fatigue as you step away from your stimulants and you sort of start building on your dynamic energy. So this is a healing crisis worth mentioning for those people with extremely low blood pressure, low kidney function. They go to in a healing event that really includes chronic fatigue, and they really need to use all the herbs they can possibly to support themselves going through that. Other healing events that people can experience are excretion of mucus. This is probably the biggest one. If you've had lung conditions most of your life, or you've been a smoker, you're going to have a lot of mucus coming from your lungs. If you've had bladder infections, chronic bladder infections, UTIs, it's going to burn for a while as these acids that is in between the cells there are on the move. Acids burn, you know, so as these are on the move, you're going to need your herbs. Like I've mentioned here, I've got a lot of tinctures as well to support with healing crises. Got bladder support, kidney and adrenal strengthening and detoxing, thyroid and parathyroid strengthening, your pituitary and pineal gland strengthening. Got a lot of extra tinctures that deal specifically with us going through the healing process until we reach that space where our cells have regenerated and we're now running on dynamic energy. It's quite a thing to get to that stage. We are quite diseased. We are quite a diseased people, the modern people of this planet at the moment, and we have quite a path to walk to get back to a place where we are fully functioning again. Another lovely one that I've designed is a mommy support. It really is the safest herbal support I've got, not just for mommies. It's not going to make anyone produce milk, but it will help a mommy to produce milk better. It is a highly nutritive, very safe formula that can be used for children and old people, even animals as well. And then specifically for the mommy before conception, during pregnancy, and then post-pregnancy when baby is little and you need to produce milk. This is a high nutrition formula. And a brand new one I'm putting together is a superfood complex. I'm still waiting for the last ingredients to arrive. Then I'm launching my superfood complex, which is brilliant. It's going to be also in a powder form, so you can take a half a teaspoon, and it will be so much nutrition that you add to your regime of healing, and it will really help to rebuild that energy levels that we all so desire. We also desire to have high levels of consciousness and awareness, and to be decongested and have no brain fog and have no fatigue. You know, we want to feel strong and live this life fully. And we get there when we decongest ourselves and when we build ourselves up cellularly again and regenerate ourselves on a cellular level. And to do that, we do need our herbs in that space of healing, and then we can use the herbs in an ad hoc fashion whenever we need it as a treatment. So that's me. I'm going to sign out now. It was lovely having your attention. Thank you for investing in this work as well. Really do appreciate it. May this talk really fall on fertile land and help you take the next step in your healing. Stay well, everyone. That's all from me, Leanne, your detox coach. Until we see each other again.